Dasa, a thrill that coursed through his veins like a jolt of lightning. They moved with a newfound urgency, their previous caution replaced by a focused determination. Dasa, his spear held aloft, its point glinting menacingly in the dappled sunlight, followed Dole's lead. The massive Tyrannosaurus Rex, his senses on high alert, moved with a fluid grace that belied his size, his every sense attuned to the hunt. The jungle floor, littered with the remnants of past hunts, seemed to hold its breath as they passed. Giant ferns parted before them, their fronds brushing against their bodies like ghostly fingers. The air, thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying vegetation, hummed with the drone of insects, a constant reminder of the cycle of life and death that played out in this primeval world. Dasa, his heart pounding in his chest, felt a surge of adrenaline sharpen his senses. He could hear the blood rushing in his ears, the rasp of his own breath, the rustle of leaves beneath his feet. His vision narrowed, focusing on the path ahead, on the massive form of Dole, who led them deeper into the heart of the jungle. They were hunters, predator and companion, bound together by a bond forged in mutual respect and a shared understanding of the ancient rhythms of the wild. They were two halves of a whole, their strengths complementing each other, their instincts intertwined, and they were about to face their greatest challenge yet. The clearing exploded in a cacophony of sound and fury. Gronk, his massive form a terrifying silhouette against the backdrop of the jungle, erupted from the undergrowth, his roar a deafening challenge that shook the very foundations of the earth. He was a creature of immense power, his scales the color of storm clouds, his eyes burning with a primal rage that sent a shiver down Dasa's spine. Dasa, caught off guard by the suddenness of the attack, barely had time to react before Gronk was upon them, his jaws snapping shut with a force that could crush bones. Dole, however, was ready. With a speed that belied his size, he wheeled around, interposing his massive body between Dasa and the enraged Tyrannosaurus Rex. The two titans collided in a shower of sparks and flying saliva, their roars echoing through the jungle like thunder. Dasa, his heart pounding in his chest, watched in awe as Dole and Gronk engaged in a dance of death, their massive bodies twisting and turning, their jaws snapping shut with bone-crushing force. Dole, though smaller than his adversary, fought with a ferocity born of loyalty and a deep-seated instinct to protect his companion. He met Gronk's every attack with a counter of his own, his teeth sinking into the larger dinosaur's flanks, drawing blood that stained the jungle floor a sickening crimson. The air filled with the stench of sweat and blood, the ground trembling beneath their feet as the two titans battled for supremacy. Dasa, his spear held tight in his grip, knew that he had to act, to find an opening, a weakness in Gronk's defenses. But for now, all he could do was watch, his heart pounding in his chest as the battle raged around him. The battle raged on, a blur of movement and sound that left Dasa breathless. He watched, his heart in his throat, as Dole and Gronk, locked in their primal struggle, circled each other, their roars echoing through the jungle, each seeking an advantage, a moment of weakness in the other. Dole, though outmatched in size and sheer brute strength, fought with a cunning and agility that surprised even Dasa. He used his smaller size to his advantage, dodging Gronk's lumbering attacks, finding openings that allowed him to land swift, punishing bites on the larger dinosaur's flanks and neck. The tide of the battle began to turn. Gronk, his fury waning as exhaustion set in, his movements becoming slower, more predictable. Dole, sensing his opponent's weakening resolve, pressed his attack, his roars growing louder, more confident. With a final earth-shattering roar, Dole lunged, his teeth sinking deep into Gronk's throat. The larger dinosaur staggered, his legs buckling beneath him, his roars turning into gurgling gasps as blood flowed freely from the wound. Dasa, his heart soaring with a mixture of relief and exhilaration, watched as Gronk, his lifeblood draining away, collapsed to the ground with a thud that shook the very foundations of the jungle. The air, thick with the stench of blood and the musk of the fallen predator, seemed to sigh in release as the battle reached its bloody conclusion.
You were magnificent, my friend. You fought with the heart of a true warrior. Dasa, his legs trembling with exhaustion, and the adrenaline that still coursed through his veins, approached Dole cautiously. his hand outstretched in a gesture of both congratulations and reassurance. The massive Tyrannosaurus Rex, his golden eyes gleaming with a mixture of pride and exhaustion, lowered his head, nudging Dasa's hand gently with his snout. "You were magnificent, my friend." He felt a surge of pride, a deep satisfaction at the bond he shared with this extraordinary creature, a bond that transcended the boundaries of species and language. Dole, his chest rumbling with a low growl of contentment, nudged Dasa's shoulder affectionately, as if to say, "We did it, together." And in that moment, standing amidst the carnage of the battlefield, Dasa felt a sense of kinship with Dole that ran deeper than any words could express. They had faced their fears, confronted a creature of unimaginable power, and emerged victorious. They had proven their loyalty, their courage and their strength, not just to each other, but to themselves. And in the process, they had forged a bond that would last a lifetime. The jungle, once a place of fear and danger, now felt like a realm of triumph and camaraderie. Dasa and Dole, united in their victory, stood as symbols of resilience and unity. Silence descended upon the clearing, broken only by the sound of Dasa's ragged breathing and the triumphant growls of Dole, who stood over Gronk's fallen form, his chest heaving, his scales stained with the blood of his vanquished foe. The air, thick with the metallic tang of blood and the musky scent of the fallen predator, seemed to crackle with the raw energy of the battle that had just transpired.
News of Dasa and Dole's victory spread through Boomatheyam like wildfire, carried on the wind, whispered from hut to hut, igniting a spark of hope in the hearts of the terrified villagers. The drums, which had fallen silent during the long hours of uncertainty, erupted once more, their rhythm shifting from one of fear and apprehension to one of jubilation and relief. Dasa, his body weary but his spirit soaring, rode into the village astride Dole's massive back. Gronk's lifeless head, its jaws agape in a silent snarl, dragged behind them like a macabre trophy. The villagers, their faces etched with a mixture of awe and gratitude, parted before them, their cheers echoing through the air, a symphony of relief and celebration.
"You are a true hero, Dasa. You have saved us all." Dasa's father, his eyes shining with pride and relief, embraced his son, his voice choked with emotion as he whispered, "You are a true hero, Dasa. You have saved us all." And in that moment, surrounded by the warmth and love of his family and his people, Dasa knew that he had found his place in the world, not just as a hunter, but as a protector, a leader, a beacon of hope in a world often defined by fear and uncertainty. The celebrations continued long into the night, fueled by a sense of relief so profound, so overwhelming, that it transcended words. Fires blazed, casting dancing shadows against the walls of the huts, their flames mirroring the joy that burned in the hearts of the villagers. Meat, taken from Gronk's massive carcass, sizzled over the flames, filling the air with a savory aroma that mingled with the sweet scent of jungle flowers. Dasa, his hand resting on Dole's flank, watched the festivities with a sense of contentment that settled deep within his soul. He had faced his fears, stared death in the face, and emerged victorious. He had proven himself worthy of his people's trust, earned a place of honor among them. And he had done it all with Dole by his side, his loyal companion, his friend, his brother in arms. The village, once shrouded in fear, now basked in the glow of their triumph. Dasa and Dole, heroes of Boomatheyam, stood tall amidst the celebration, their bond unbreakable.
The path back to Boomatheyam was no longer the treacherous, shadow-dappled tunnel it had been on their outward journey. The jungle itself seemed to rejoice in Dasa and Dole's victory, the air alive with the songs of unseen birds, the scent of blooming flowers sweeter than Dasa could ever recall. Even the air, usually thick with humidity, felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from the very atmosphere. Dole, his massive head held high, his every step a tremor that resonated through the earth, moved with a newfound majesty. Gone was the restless energy, the youthful exuberance that had marked their earlier trek. In their place was a quiet confidence, a sense of purpose fulfilled that radiated from him like a tangible aura. Dasa, perched atop Dole's back, his hand resting lightly on the creature's warm scales. felt a surge of pride that brought tears to his eyes. He had never felt so connected to Dole, so in tune with the creature's every breath, every heartbeat. They had faced death together, stared into the abyss of primal fear, and emerged stronger, their bond tempered in the fires of adversity. As they drew closer to the village, the sounds of celebration grew louder, the rhythmic beat of drums pulsing through the air like a heartbeat. Dasa could hear the excited shouts of children, the relieved sobs of mothers, the deep, resonant chants of the village elders, all blending together in a symphony of gratitude and relief. Boomatheyam, usually a place of quiet industry and hushed reverence for the spirits of the jungle, had transformed into a whirlwind of joyous chaos. Bonfires blazed, their flames reaching towards the heavens, casting dancing shadows against the rough-hewn walls of the huts.